All right. Okay. Welcome and Happy New Year, everybody. Didn't see that one coming, did you? Brought to order at 5:34. Can we start with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Gabriel Sook, present. Aaron Montano. Bryn King.
Present.
Bill Lee is absent. I don't think I see him online. Rebecca Boucher. Ben Masick. Mark Masick. I don't know. For the record, both. I said both. All right. Shut this. Echo. So consent agenda. I think we were just partly because of getting late to get them posted, but
Gabe, just
Yes,
do
Dan.
we have a quorum for the record?
We do. We have 5.
Perfect.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Thank you. So we need to approve today's agenda, the September and November minutes, and then November, December bank and check registers, and then Katie can explain the 5 bars if they need any elaboration.
Yeah.
So I think we're good on the agendas and minutes.
The bars.
Okay.
One thing about the consent agenda, the one update is, bar 11 has turned to bar 13. Same fund. I just had to change the coding, so it meant I had to change the bar number. And then we added bar 14. And that is for a small private grant for your, garden program. Other than that, they're all increased bars.
Bar 11 is 13.
Yes. Yep, they're all increased bar, and that bar 11, which is now 13, is for $12,000. It is also for your grant or your gardening program.
Okay.
Yep, and the rest are just like impact aid, which is general ed, or for your lease assistance program.
So impact aid is
We did get it. Yep.
all right.
Yeah, I know, right?
Is this the last goodbye, or is it like we think? Okay.
They told us to apply again, so we applied again. So I think it's ongoing money. And
That's fantastic.
yeah, and
What
this
can
is
it be used on, those funds?
everything, anything. There's no restrictions for impact aid. And this allocation was a little over 300,000. We'll get another allocation in April, but we don't know how much it will be for. So, once we get that, then we bar it. And so what's in your forecast is fairly, conservative.
You being conservative.
It doesn't have.
New year, new you. What? Okay. Well, I appreciate that pragmatic approach, and it always sets us up in a good position to. Yeah. Not on the dance floor. Okay. Awesome. So, does anybody have any questions on the bars, the minutes, or the recent agendas today's agenda that we're approving? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the 2026 January agenda of this meeting, the September and November of 2025 minutes, the November and December bank reconciliation and check registers, and the bars listed here 1 through 5. We have a motion.
I'll motion
Thank you,
to
Bryn.
approve the January agenda, the minutes for September and November, as well as the bank reconciliations and check registers for November and December.
Okay. Awesome. There we go. Rebecca seconds it. All right. Aaron, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rebecca, Ben, Bryn, and I also vote aye. Awesome. All right. I am going to turn us over to Cassidy from Hillsdale. Cassidy, thanks so much for being patient, and sorry for making you and Dr. Osborne wait. I'm gonna let you kind of, other than to say, Bryn, Aaron, and I had a great interaction with Hillsdale last week, and I thought of this when I was saying the pledge. I thought maybe someday we could learn, at the board meeting to do a Zuni or Navajo. but
Oh, wow.
yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe not, but it was very cool. A group of students went to it was a speech being given by the president of Hillsdale College at the Albuquerque Convention Center, which I'd never been to. We had Hozho students there who did the pledge, and then Julianne actually emceed it. It's fantastic MC. I don't think that should surprise people, although I don't think she thinks of herself. I think she's a natural, so maybe sometimes you're not aware of those skills. But and then their school president, Dr. Arn, gave an awesome speech. He's a man after my own heart, which is, you kind of speak your way, your truth, and it comes off, authentically and very funny too, which I appreciate. He has a great sense of humor. So, awesome. I will turn it over to you guys. And we can go from there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I appreciate the welcome. I was fortunate enough to attend the Washington, D.C. visit last year. So I was
Ooh.
able to see the students do their pledge did they do it in Spanish as well? I think they did it
Yep.
in three
Yep.
languages. That was a really special visit. So it was wonderful to meet a lot of the Julianne and the students. And so anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for
It's a
having
moving
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just introduce myself and Dr. Osborne and tell you what we have to share with you this evening. So I am Cassidy Klutz, and I serve as the Director of Governance and Policy for the Hillsdale College K-12 Education Office. And in addition to introducing ourselves, we're also actually introducing a bit of a shift in roles in our office. So with me, I have Dr. Mike Osborne, who is our incoming Director of Governance, and I will be serving as the Director of Policy and Research after a period of maternity leave this spring. So you caught us at a transition in our office. And so we were excited to meet with you this evening to talk to you about some principles of governance, what we recommend, what we think every board should tend to, how they should govern, what they should remind themselves periodically through your terms of service. And then also I will provide an overview of how Hillsdale supports boards specifically, and also officially both introduce and hand off board support for your school from the K-12 office to Dr. Osborne. So,
Yeah. And Cassidy, can I
go
cut you
ahead,
off for
Gabe.
just 1 second
Yeah.
just to tie this to a couple other things? Like, I think having the chance to think about stuff like this is kind of can be somewhat of a luxury. Sometimes you're so much in the weeds that you don't have time. And I think we are getting to a place where we have that time. And as you see, we'll get into later in the board meeting, we're starting to look at our
Mhm.
bylaws and kind of the foundation. So, but I also want to, like, I don't know how much interaction all of you have had with Hillsdale, but it is this, and I don't know the depths of it, but it is a great resource for us to have of just institutional knowledge. And I think anytime, we can get that from outside just to hear a different perspective, I think uh it's uh it's awesome. So I think this is a good first step, and I think is very timely to tying into kind of stuff we're starting to focus on and we'll speak on later tonight. So there you go. Okay, this is my last
Thank you,
interruption.
sir. Thank you. No, that's great. I will. So, Mike will talk to you about our best practices and the recommendations that we make regarding the philosophy of governance and the distinction between the work of the board and the work of the headmaster. And we teach this to our founding boards, but also we work with schools that are 10 years old and, remind them of these things and also talk about how this plays out in the work of a board that governs a school into its maturity. I know that Hozho is several years old, getting close to 10, if I'm not mistaken. And so even governing a mature school, it's great to return to these foundational principles. So he will do a presentation for you all on that topic. And then at the end, I can explain what support looks like from Hillsdale, what you mean to us, and then also just explain what we hope, the relationship that we hope to have with you, specifically between the board and the K-12 office. So I will pass things over to Dr. Osborne and tell you that in addition to this presentation, with board support in general, you're in great hands. He has over 30 years of experience in school leadership and governance advising, and so I'm excited for you to meet him and hear him speak to you all.
Thanks, Cassidy, and pleasure to be here this evening. Thanks for having us here. I do have some experience. I've with school boards over the years. Some of the years have been in private schools. I've helped to start a private school in Toledo, Ohio, and then moved up to Adrian, Michigan, and helped to restart a private school there, a Christian school. Moved into the public school and have spent the last 24 years in public school. The last 16 years have been as a superintendent. So again, some experiences with some different school boards over the years, but hopefully we have some good information to share with you this evening. First of all, I'd like to start with just some thoughts that I believe are kind of foundational to our understanding of the work of school boards. Board service, for example, is not just a symbolic service that we perform. It's not an honorary position that we hold. It's not even a casual voluntary activity that we carry out. True board service, in my mind, is stewardship. When you think about it, when you became a board member, you accepted this responsibility of protecting the mission of the school, safeguarding its long-term health, and ensuring the future of their students, whether they're current students or students in the future. You're there to make sure that they receive the education that your school has promised that they're going to receive. Tonight, there's 5 things we want to touch on. First of all, we'd like to talk about what serious boards service actually looks like. Second, how effective boards operate. We'd also like to look at what your true governance role is. Fourth, how authority flows from the board to the head of school. And then finally, what is really outside of the school board's role. As Cassie mentioned, we're talking about philosophy, but probably what we're trying to do more than anything is just provide clarity to your work as school board members. So first of all, the seriousness of school board service. Serving on a classical school board in particular is different than serving on most nonprofit boards, for example. Because when you're on a nonprofit, what you're doing is really just overseeing a program. What you're stewarding in this case is an educational mission. You're shaping minds, you're shaping character in the culture that you're creating in the school. That requires a different level of seriousness about the work that we're doing. When you look at what serious board members do, when we are taking this work seriously, some of the things that we're doing are preparing for meetings. We're reading reports in advance. We're asking thoughtful questions along the way. Like you're doing tonight, you're seeking governance training, improving your ability to do the work that you're doing. You're putting mission above any personal preferences that we have about this work. And you're avoiding the politics and the side conversations that can sometimes take place. Over the years, I've worked for, as I mentioned, several different school boards. And I remember some school boards I worked with early on. One of them in particular, it seemed that the purpose of the board was just to have meetings. That's what they really seemed to come together to do. But when they were holding meetings, the meetings would run long. The decisions that they were making, every decision, there just seemed to be drama associated with it and conflict. And in the end, what I noticed with the staff is just that there was just the morale suffered as a school, as a district. I compare that to other school boards, one in particular that I served that I thought did it really well. They were well prepared when we had board meetings, but more importantly, they stayed disciplined about the work that they were doing. And that board went through some really turbulent times, but they still remained disciplined about and focused on the work that they were there to do. One of the biggest things that I noticed about that board is that there was trust among the board members, but just as importantly, they trusted their administrative team or the head of school or superintendent in this case. And what happened with that school is that I watched over the years that school was stable, it grew, it flourished. The real difference that I noticed in those two schools was the governance maturity. Good governance, in my mind, is not very flashy, but it is powerful work that we do when we do it well. The second thing we said we were going to mention is how effective boards actually operate. when you look at it, healthy boards tend to have three habits that they share in common. First, one of the habits is they operate with unity. Once a board makes a decision, individual board members don't publicly contradict that decision, especially in the meeting after the meeting. Typically, that meeting after the meeting happens in the parking lots or social media or in individual conversations you're having with staff or parents. When we speak as a board, we speak with one voice. That doesn't mean you have to always agree. Matter of fact, spirited conversations can be a good and healthy thing for us as a board. But when we make a decision, we're all on board and we speak with one voice, and we work to protect that institutional credibility of the board. The second thing that I notice in healthy schools is that they focus on the long game. This work is more about a marathon than it is a sprint. Strong boards think in terms of enrollment trends, financial stability for the school, leadership succession on the board in particular, facility planning and mission fidelity. They don't get involved in the daily operations of the school. They're thinking long term, those types of activities. And the third area that I noticed is that they invest in their own development. Great boards don't assume that governance is this skill that we all have, but that it's something that you can be trained in, something you can improve upon. You can become better over time. When I think about that, I think about like a doctor or an airline pilot. Passengers don't want just a pilot who is passionate about his work. They want one that's trained. They want one with discipline and that he has checklists and systems and he's prepared when he's going to take off. It's the same for us as a board. Governance has that same type of preparation and seriousness about it. Boards take themselves seriously and create stability for everyone else when they do that. The third area we wanted to talk about was Gabriel. One of the emails that he sent, I noticed there were three words I thought were great words to include in this presentation. He talked about, he used the words oversight, strategy, and accountability. And I thought those were great words and are important roles that a school board has. A school board one of the roles is oversight. We oversee the mission of the school. We oversee the policies and ensure that those policies are followed. We oversee the finances and ensure that there's sound financial policies in place. We oversee the compliance, that compliance obligations are met and that risks are managed. You're not doing the work as a board, but you're overseeing that work and you're ensuring that work is well done. The second word that he mentioned was strategy. And when we talk about strategy is always future focused. And that includes some of the same things, though. It's enrollment planning. We're thinking about enrollment for the future. How do we plan for increased enrollment? How do we plan for staffing growth in the facility needs that we're going to have in the future? The programs that we're going to move into. Where are we going next? What are we doing next? How do we make sure that there is financial stability? Wherever we are now, we want to see improvement financially. How do we do that? How do we plan for that? How do we run that marathon as we're moving forward? Boards collaborate with the head of school in the strategic direction. So you're providing that strategic direction for the head of school. Again, not involved in the daily operation and making it happen on a daily basis, but overseeing that strategy for the long run. The third area that was mentioned was accountability. And this is probably one of the most important responsibilities that a board has. When you think about it, you hire the head of school, you support the head of school, you evaluate the head of school. That's one of the most important accountability areas that you have. When you look at the evaluation that you're providing for the head of school, there's many different parts to that. First, when we're creating an evaluation, we're making sure that the evaluation is based on our mission. It's mission-centered. We're making sure that it's data informed. It's not just our feelings that we like the person or don't like the person. It's data informed based on the specific things that we're looking for in that evaluation. It happens on a regular basis, and it's predictable. It happens annually, and the headmaster knows what to expect. It's constructive. An evaluation is really about building someone up, increasing their skills, making them better at what they're doing. It's not about tearing someone down or punishing them. And it's done in a professional way. When we think about it, if the board is the owner of the mission for the school, the head of school is the chief executive of that daily operation. As owners of this mission, we set the expectations as a board. As executives, the head of school, they execute that mission. Again, strong boards protect leadership by clarifying those expectations instead of prescribing that specific approaches that need to be taken. The fourth area that we mentioned we wanted to talk about this evening was authority and the board administrator partnership. This is probably one of the areas where many boards struggle at times, but healthy governance depends on this clear role separation. Here's a simple way to remember it. The board governs, the head of school manages. It's as simple as that. And when we think of authority, authority flows from the board to the head of school. But when we think about accountability, that accountability flows from the head of school and back to the board. The board has exactly one employee, and that employee is the head of school. And when we're set up that way, when we behave that way and function that way as a school board, that protects our staff from being pulled in different directions and protects the leadership clarity that I think that we're all looking for in our schools. Think of what each provides, what a board provides and what the head of school provides, different roles that each has. The board provides for the school, again, mission clarity, strategic direction, policy guide rails. We're setting policies so that we have these guide rails for our administrator to work with them. We provide the evaluation and the accountability for making sure that things are moving forward as we said they're going to. And most important, well, I don't know if it's most important, but it certainly is very important. We're providing support and encouragement along the way. When we look at the head of school, different responsibilities. The head of school is responsible for the staff supervision, the academic leadership of the school, the daily operations of the school, communications with the family and discipline systems that we create in the school, just the overall program execution. I've seen schools where board members start giving teachers instructions directly. And what happens with that is it creates confusion and resentment. It breaks, there's a leadership breakdown. Healthy boards want to protect that chain of command, not because they're distant from their employees or distant from their school families. It's not because they're distant, it's because they're disciplined. This role clarity is really about kindness and maturity on the board's part, because blurred authority just creates chaos within the school and in the leadership and organization of the school. So the last area we wanted to touch on was what is outside the school board's role? So things that boards should not be involved in. As I said, strong school boards do not supervise teachers. They don't handle parent complaints directly. They don't set classroom procedures, manage schedules. They're not disciplining students, negotiating staff issues. They're not directing office staff, those kind of things. Instead, the board works at a much higher level. They're there to ensure that policies exist. Boards are there to ensure that systems exist and accountability exists within the district. One of the practical examples that we often run into is a parent comes to you for a complaint. Again, as board members, our job is not to solve the parent's issue. Our job is to direct them back to the chain of command. Typically, that's the head of school. That protects the professionalism and that leadership authority that we're looking for in the school. I think about it in terms of building a fence line. So as a board, we're in charge of building the fence. We're not hurting the cattle. We create this fence that the cattle are within. You design the structure as a board, and the leadership moves within that structure. When boards want to, it's typical for board members to want to communicate with their constituents. They want their constituents to know that they care and that they're involved in this work. But often what they do then is get inside that fence and start doing work that they're not designed to do. Those boundaries are not there because there's distance between you and your constituents. They're there because it creates protection. It creates clarity. It protects staff from mixed messages. It protects leaders from being undermined and the board from being pulled into the daily operations of the school. So if you agree with me that board service is about stewardship, then one of your natural questions might be, well, then what should I be doing? How should I be investing my time as a board member? What are the activities the specific kind of activities I should be involved in? Strong members don't just attend meetings, like I said, in some cases. They do help build this framework that we're creating within our schools that allows a school to really flourish. That means that you're investing time in good governance work. For example, you're doing things like helping to create clear policies for the school, strengthening the processes that you have as a board. You're maintaining that long-term focus. You're a marathon runner. You're making sure that you're in this for the long haul, that your school is in this for the long haul. It means that you're serving on committees if you have them. Committees are usually doing a lot of that, digging deep into topics. The audit committees, looking at governance, and how you support the head of school, how you go about the strategic planning. As board members, you can invest in supporting and holding the head of school accountable. As we talked about, reading reports and participating in the evaluations, helping to clarify priorities as a board and as a school, and offering wisdom and support when it's either asked for or needed, especially from the head of school. Finally, one of the things that a board member can do is think beyond ourselves, help to identify future trustees, future board members, supporting the onboarding of these new board members, mentoring the new board members, and preparing this next generation of leadership on your board. In short, strong board members don't just show up. They help to build a system. They protect the mission of the school. They support leadership and prepare the future of the school. That to me is board stewardship in action. So a couple closing thoughts I just want to emphasize, I suppose. Ultimately, when you look at the work that you do as a board, I don't think you're going to be remembered as a board for having great board meetings. I looked at your agenda. It's a great agenda. I've happened to look at some of your videos, and you have great board meetings. But I doubt if you're going to be remembered for your great board meetings. But I can tell you what I think you will be remembered for. I think you will be remembered for the students that you form in the future, the culture that you help to build within your school, the mission that you've helped preserve for your school, and the leadership that you've supported along the way. Your role is to create the conditions where the excellence that you're looking for is possible within your school. And that requires some specific things from board members, some specific qualities. It requires a humility as a board member, a discipline and unity as a board. It requires courage at times, especially in some of the difficult things that you need to do. And it requires a seriousness of purpose about how we go about the work that we're doing. In short, you're entrusted with the mission that will outlast any of us as school board members or employees. But I want to thank you for the responsibility, the seriousness that you have approached this work and will continue to approach this work. It is serious work that you're doing, and it will make an impact for years to come. So, as Cassie mentioned, we also want to provide an opportunity to ask questions if you would like to. But before that, I think Cassie had mentioned she had a few things that she'd like to share about the K-12 office, Hillsdale, and how we want to be able to support you as a school board.
Thank you, Mike. I'll keep it brief. I know we said 20 minutes and I took some time on the front end. So um, I will say we enjoyed having Bryn out at board development this last fall. And we had a lot of really great conversations about the history of Hozho and about how the school is doing. And one of the things that I want to touch on quickly is to give you all an overview of what support looks like from the Hillsdale College K-12 office, specifically to your board. And if we provide support for more of the school than just the board. We have the leader support team, the teacher support team, but the way that we work with our schools and specifically school boards has evolved over time as the K-12 education office has grown and itself formalized. And so the growth of our office and the way that we work with our schools would be reflected in, for example, your most recent member school agreement. But I thought I would just bring your attention to a couple of the ways that we can support you, and then also just make you aware of what board support looks like so that you know that we are a resource available to you as you work through, fine-tuning your policies and continue to develop as a board. So first and foremost, I would say that.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Cassie. I'm wondering if, like, I didn't realize until I went out there was that we have obligations to you as well as being a member school. So if you can take a little bit of time and tell us like a little bit of what our responsibility back to you guys is as a member school, so we can maintain that relationship, because I know that not all schools keep being members. And so I know it's a
Thank you.
privilege.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I am glad you said that, Bryn. Yeah, so first I would say, and I'll touch on that. First, I would just say that the board, the entire school, of course, but the board is extremely important to the K-12 office. And for many reasons, one of which is that the board and the school leader, both together and also independently, have a huge impact on the quality and the success and the longevity of the school. I did my doctoral dissertation almost entirely on the board-head relationship and could talk about it for a very long time, but I will just say that I'm convinced that boards are important just as school leaders are important. And for the K-12 office, one of the reasons why we value our relationship with the board directly is because you are the keeper of the agreement between the school and Hillsdale College. And there is an agreement in place. We would say that we describe our relationship with the schools as one marked by friendship. We are purely advisory, and we do have an exchange where Hillsdale agrees to provide a series of things that I will highlight to you in exchange for a certain level of engagement from the school, from the board and the school leader, and from the teachers. And our mission is to see you succeed and to provide you with all the resources that you need and the advice and counsel. And then at the end of the day, the board runs and governs the school in partnership with the school leader. And so our job is to support and advise and resource you as best as possible. So we're glad to tell you that you're important to us. And one of the reasons why we were glad to meet you today was just to sort of reestablish that connection and make you aware of all the wonderful things we have for you, should you wish to take advantage of them. So the agreement, or I guess the contract, again, we don't use it is a contract, but we don't, again, the relationship is one that's sort of marked by friendship. So we would think in terms of, hey, we have these things that we do for you, and in exchange, this is what we hope our relationship looks like. So Hillsdale commits to provide the Hozho Academy with Hillsdale's academic program, with the curriculum, with related materials, as well as all of the training and guidance required to implement those materials throughout the school. And so at some other time, if you all want, I can give you a written material, or if you want a quick presentation. I know this one was longer because we were talking to a board about board governance, but just an overview of what, for example, the teacher support team does for your school and all of their training. It's amazing to see what they do within the school when it comes to training teachers and equipping the deans and this administration to implement the academic program. If I were a teacher, I would be grateful to have that. We also support the school's implementation of K-12, the Hillsdale's K-12 best practices. And our best practices cover curriculum, culture, pedagogy, leadership, and governance. So we have a document I can share with you if you don't have it handy that just touches on what it looks like to be a mature, excellent board, a school leader, to how the school's culture should look, and what curriculum and pedagogy look like in excellence. And then we also provide as needed assistance and resources, and we visit the schools. So if you wanted to visit, you could request one, and we could visit you in person to support the board, the school leader, the teachers, depending on who's making the request. And so, broadly speaking, Hillsdale is committing to walk alongside you as you govern the school, and to walk alongside each large sort of group within the school, the school leader, the teachers, and the board, not only during the founding period, but into maturity as well. And we know that in maturity, typically you're fine tuning, but we are glad to support you in that work. And then uh, in exchange for that support, typically, so what a board would commit to is just engaging in a relationship with the K-12 office. We want you to see us as a resource, so hopefully it's a nice experience. It's nice for you to engage with us and to be in relationship with us and to see us as a resource. So a couple of those items you might find in the agreement would be a commitment to govern and lead the school in alignment with Hillsdale's K-12 best practices, essentially governing the school well, maintaining regular communication with the K-12 office. Typically, we do this through primarily through the board chair. So as the incoming director of governance, Dr. Osborne would have a quarterly probably check-in with Gabe, and would find out how the school's doing, and if you need any support, if there are any ways that we could give you resources, or if there are questions that you might have. And then also just a commitment to keep us abreast of major developments at your school. So if I'm trying to think of a major development, um, you know, if Mrs. Hillock decided that she was going to become a professional athlete and was no longer going to lead a school, and decided to change careers, which we all hope she doesn't because she's a wonderful headmaster, that would be something we would love to hear from you, so that we knew that there was a large change coming in this school. There's also a sort of a process that we engage in together where we support your head of school vetting process, which, as I said, it's not a present topic that you're going through, but one of the things that we do with school boards. And then one hope that we have is that board members will attend Hillsdale's biannual board development conference within 6 months of beginning their board service, and then every 2 years thereafter. So essentially every 2 years. And if you've missed that window within your board service, that's okay. But we have this conference every April and November, and We believe that it's important in both providing continued development for boards, but also as the keeper of the relationship between your school and the college. We love to have you come out to campus and learn more about what we're doing, see how we really care about you and your school, and then give you resources that you can take back with you to serve on your board. I will say that aside from transportation, all costs are covered. So lodging, registration, meals, everything is covered. We build in time for boards to workshop their own materials. I realize you're a public school board, so you have to be thoughtful about doing things like that. But even just brainstorming, if you're working on writing a new policy, for example, you could take your draft and work on it with someone and get feedback from our staff. You could bring the strategic plan draft that you have and show it to a team and get feedback. And so it's a really wonderful opportunity to learn more about the college, understand, what sort of support that we offer both the board and the other areas of the school, the teachers, the school leaders. And we know that you are one of the schools that would have to travel far. We have a school from this last November when Bryn came, we had New Mexico, we had Alaska, and we are grateful for your effort, Brandon, coming all the way out. And in exchange, again, not that we're thinking tit for tat, but we also are invested in you and would love to visit. So if there's a time that you're available or willing this spring, Mike would love to come out and see the school and meet you all in person. And if you ever wanted an in-person visit, like someone to facilitate an annual board meeting or something, you can ask, or not board meeting, sorry, an annual
Is it?
retreat. So our support for you on governance, and this is my last point, I promise. It essentially is as much as you would want. So hopefully, at the very least, we are checking in together and we know how the school is doing, and we have quarterly check-ins, and we see you all at board development every couple years. And but we also have a quarterly newsletter that you can sign up for that tells you what's going on in the network, updates from governance, highlights some of our resources. We have over 70 filmed and written resources on our digital library that has been relaunched. If you've ever seen it, it's beautiful, and the resources are growing daily. We just filmed 2 video series on John Carver's policy governance and then the governance committee on tending to every stage of board service. And then we also provide as needed advising and support. So as Mike said, if you're working on a process, like a governance process, or if you're working on a policy or a strategic plan and you just want input, you can write an email, ask us for advice, and we're happy to give you our thoughts, give you resources, point you in the right direction. And if you think to yourself, oh, I wonder if Hillsdale would be helpful in this way, just know that we would love to be helpful in any way that we can. And there's no question that's too small. We are glad to support you. And really, our goal is to just help you govern well and just see the school thrive. So I'll cut myself off there, but thank you for
Okay.
giving us the time to speak with you all.
Yes, thanks for sharing. Yes, Bryn. Yeah.
Say, where can we find, can you email us? Do you have all of our emails from the agenda, the board
Yes,
agenda?
ma'am.
Because
I do.
could you email us the link or the website that we could go to find those videos that you were describing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the 2 video series I just mentioned are I filmed them in October and they will be published or like released in the next month or so. But what I can do is just follow up from this conversation with an email, just outlining the points that I just mentioned of the ways that we support you, including information about the newsletter and the library. And on the library, you will find the video series, and in the newsletter, you would see updates about things like new resources. And we have a sample policy manual that our colleague took a year to write for our board's to look at that has recently been published as well. And it's written in the style of John Carver's Policy Governance, but that's another exciting resource that we can share if you're working on policies, for example. We're glad to share that with you.
Is there a tricky login for the library?
Not tricky. I can confirm. I actually think you could already be signed up for it. But I can confirm, and if not, just make sure that your emails are all signed up for the newsletter in the library if you like.
Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I think I got a bunch of questions and comments, but I also think in the interest of time, I might move forward, and we've got two more things, and we got one more item, and then I'm going to discuss about the bylaws, which is going to tie into a lot of this stuff. So if you guys have time, you're more than welcome to hang around. And I think I just want to, we have to table it if we do the
I
other way.
know. Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry we took a while.
no,
Thank you
no.
for your time.
Yep. All right. So, if you could just I guess I should have ordered this differently, but if we can just review, I don't want to the PTO policy right here real quick, and then the next action item is forming a subcommittee to look at our bylaws, and in that, I want to touch back on a lot of things that were discussed here.
Yeah.
I mean, is the summary basically we no longer will have PTO and sick leave, we will have like one type of leave essentially? Well, there were two and now there are one. Is that correct?
PTO's paid time off, not parent.
Yeah, and I thought that they wanted it to be otherwise, I thought we'd one budget, but maybe.
The way it's structured now, the revised version, there is no longer any sick leave. And that's that. So the reworked policy, if you guys have this, okay.
We just got it.
Okay, yes. So let me just forward this to you guys. I don't think I'm connected to the printer. Let me see.
I can't print, but I can. The other thing is that if you do use 3 days, then you have to essentially get like a sick note or something from someone, and you have to get it approved by your supervisor. The biggest change is for custodians. That's the whole reason we started down this path, is custodial staff didn't really have vacation at all, but they're here all the time. And so now they have 14 days of vacation.
So there's a couple of summary notes I have on it, is that in the new policy, no sick leave exists. All leave is PTO. PTO can be used for illness, medical appointments, family care, personal matters. It takes us out of kind of deciding, I mean, because, as I experienced this morning from Tommy, who at like 8:17 declared he was sick, sick can be a little bit nebulous sometimes. And I think it's just makes sense. I assume it's like kind of more forward. I think as is now, if you were sick, there was something in there that you needed to provide, or you could be asked to provide a doctor's note or something like that. Now that everything is just kind of bunched together, I think there's a provision if you are gone for more than 3 days, kind of like that's not planned, then we still have the opportunity to go back and say like what's going on, or like what's really happening. And a failure to kind of address that can result in unpaid leave. But it's not a clawback. It's not that the days you were gone would be like, oh, that doesn't count anymore because we don't, agree that was legitimate. It would just be like, and I mean, I think this is like a worst case scenario. Dan, are you on, and do you have anything to add on that? I don't know if you had a chance to review this yet either, but I just did a little quick side by side, and those were kind of I think maybe we also changed from no, that didn't change.
Yeah, and just say generally my perspective is I prefer to only use PTO rather than have the distinction with sick leave. I think, we treat our staff as professionals, and so we trust them to use their leave appropriately, and then it's dealt with from a personal standpoint if they're not. And so, I think what we don't want is someone, saying they're sick when they're not sick because they don't have leave or something like that. It's just, I think this is a better way to handle it. FMLA still applies, so if someone has a catastrophic illness or something, that's still available to them. So That of course is not paid leave. Um, and you've already hit on the highlights of, if someone's out sick for more than 3 days, just kind of it's a normal course where we would be able to ask for a doctor's note at that point. So it doesn't, but by the virtue of it being PTO doesn't change that. We're just moving to more kind of, professional setting where we're saying, hey, you take care of your business, you know, this is your leave. We trust you with how to use it. And then, hopefully that means that the staff use it appropriately.
Is this to compensate for the state's mandatory sick leave?
No,
No.
no, this is something that they started, like JR started because you realized that there was some inequity when it came to how long people were working versus how much time they got off.
Okay.
Just a couple other points, like our old policy, I just wrote it down, was 848 words. We've got it down to 527, which I say I clap to. There was a chart in the old policy and there is no longer a chart in this policy. Which I mean, in the right place. I love charts, but time and situation. So let me just forward this around really quick. I should have done that at the beginning. But
Gabe, I think there was a question too about the state sick leave policy or
yeah,
law.
that was what Ben was saying about.
So we're as a public school that doesn't apply to us, but this policy is compliant with all of the leave requirements for a school that's subject to the public school code.
What's the actual PTO time? Like how much are they getting? It was
And so 12 days,
okay.
if you are a 12-month employee, 10 days, if you're a 10-month employee, although almost everyone's a 12-month employee.
Yeah.
And then 14 days for custodial staff.
If you look, you have it now. Yeah.
Because most other people's PTO is dictated by like teaching schedules. They come in July for a few days for PD, but they don't have to be here during the week.
You earn, which is, I think is the same. You earn one day per month. I mean, so if you look in the document, there's the top is current and then bottom is reworked.
And custodial vacation days are separate. My only problem with PTO policies these days are they are now audited. And it is
You can get a finding on it.
Yes,
Oh.
you can. It's very easy to.
Suboptimal.
So our current policy has this piece in it about being paid out $50 and calculating that, and we do that for you all. And so it's as long as the payout or the not being paid out, whatever doesn't change, which it doesn't look like it is, then I think we're fine. If we make this too complicated, we're gonna get a finding.
But this seems like we're simplifying it.
Yeah, so I'm just saying.
And is that the main criteria? Okay. Yeah.
Like not more money, more time. I that's where this whole thing started. And then I don't know how we got to here.
I mean, it looks to me like, and I just read it briefly earlier, and then like it seems to me that it is, yeah. I mean, just by default of removing the verbiage, you're kind of making it easier to understand. And I think by getting rid of a two-tier system, you are also
Yeah, I agree with that.
so, and I think it used to be if you ran out of sick leave, I don't know that you could use I don't think you were supposed to, I don't know, you could get like if you ran out, then it could impact your pay if you were really, sick, but maybe not on whatever, long-term leave or whatever. So yeah, the big addition is just the only kind of material, I'm not going to use a lawyer word, that's for Dan. The only big addition I see is something specific to the custodial staff. So they're getting 14 vacation days. There's no rollover. There's no payout if you don't use it. And if you use more, it's going to come out. It's going to. Let me see what the language says. But I did a ChatGPT summary on it. I feel like this is the tone and risk profile. The current policy, defensive, compliance heavy, supervisor centric, designed to prevent abuse, rework policy, trust-based, employee-centric, simplified, modern HR tone. Now, don't always trust ChatGPT either, but that's what we got. So simplifies leave into one PTO system, improves clarity and usability, reduces administrative overhead, and modernizes the tone and expectations. It removes I think there might have been, but I think there's a broad state policy that would cover you in the case of catastrophic illness, like what Dan was referring to before. I don't remember. So I think overall not massive, but a step in the right direction. So does anybody want to ask Dan or Katie or myself or have any other questions or any discussion about this?
So this is then universal kind of PTO, like it's not just sick. PTO.
There's no more. So we eliminated, there will not be sick leave, which I think is good because it's like,
So then
my wife would say, she always goes to work when I'm sick and I'm a baby. And so if we had sick leave in my household, I would always be out and she would never let me borrow any of hers. So
does the school operate on a different level than like most businesses within the state?
I mean, Dan can answer that question. My understanding is
Yeah.
that universally, I think in any state that would be the case.
Yeah, I just
Because-
think within the state, they mandate.
Well, they might make a private business do something that they don't want to make their
That the state employees do.
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's the power. That's privilege of power.
Yeah, just the Paid Leave Act does not apply to public entities in New Mexico.
Okay, that's
So,
fine. Yeah, thank you.
Sounds
so
like
we
you
don't
even
have to comply with that. Our policy would still comply with it though, but for what it's worth, but based on the amount of leave we're giving people, that law is really complicated if you do it with the accrual because it accrues based on hours worked and bigger discussion, not worth our time, but this policy is compliant with law. It's I don't have any issues with it from a legal standpoint if the board wants to approve it.
Thanks, Dan.
It's fine, it's, I mean, the payout and all that is similar to your old one, so I think we'll be fine on calculating everything at the end of the year for the.
Okay.
Is our payout, like, why do we pay then?
It's in your policy. It says PTO payout $50 a day on resignation or retirement with following conditions, and that says what the conditions are. So we have to calculate that as part of your, as a liability in your financials, so.
And that's a normal thing that like most schools do this.
Most schools do that, yeah, and you guys don't have that much PTO, I mean, you can roll over 3 days. And you accumulate at most 12. So at most, we're talking 15 days. If you retire, you're gonna get paid $50 a day. It's just not that much money.
Yeah, like $100 or something.
If you retire or you resign with meeting all these things, because you have several.
Intent is submitted to office manager by April 15th. Formal letter is submitted to the lead administrator by June 15th, and full contract year is completed. Those are your. Yeah. Okay. I feel in a good place to approve this. Does anybody else have anything else they want to touch on it? Okay. Well, I'd motion to approve the PTO discussion and policy change as documented in the document that you all have in your inboxes now and that we just discussed.
Second motion.
Thank you, sir. Aaron, how do you vote? Rebecca? Ben?
Aye.
Bryn? And I also vote aye. All right. There we go. Okay, last action item. Then we get QT, Quality Ken, with Katie, who's gonna give her own stuff and some other people's stuff too. Yeah. Is the action request here is the approve the formation of the board policy and governance subcommittee as described below, and I will read it. The board president proposes the formation of a board policy and governance subcommittee composed of Gabriel Sook, Bryn King, Aaron Montano. The purpose of the subcommittee is to review and refresh the board's bylaws and to draft a foundational government and policy document that clearly defines the board's roles, responsibilities, and scope of authority. This work will include identifying matters requiring formal board action, areas of board oversight that do not require formal votes, and matters appropriately delegated outside the board's purview. Any recommended bylaw revisions or governance policies developed by the subcommittee will be presented to the board for review, discussion, and formal approval by a vote at a duly noticed meeting with a quorum present. The subcommittee shall have no independent authority to adopt or implement changes. The subcommittee is established as a temporary subcommittee and will sunset and be formally dissolved upon completion of its charge, which shall occur upon the board's adoption by a vote at duly noticed meeting with a quorum present or revised bylaws and a governance policy, or in the event no proposed changes are presented to the board for review and vote no later than May 31st, 2026. So what I'm trying to do here is I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I think it is finding the conditions that can kind of, I think when our purview is kind of maybe understood by all of us in some sense, but it hasn't been articulated, the places we could get involved in is like too broad. And there's so much happening at the school, and the school is changing so fastly and growing so quickly. So it is not to like limit our scope, it is really to define our scope, and that we can all say and kind of be, you know, in agreement on this is the stuff that we're going to be involved in. And then I think also we need to just like give ourselves like, the grace and pass just to be like, we don't have to worry about that stuff. As much as maybe it's like something that, as a parent, I might care about and I can get involved as, but like as a board, just to be like, let's take this off our plate because otherwise it's too massive and it's too big. Um, and I don't know what best practices here, and we can talk with our friends from Hillsdale about this. But I think also within this document, if you look at our bylaws now, and I'll send those around too, it is a little bit about the board and then a lot of policies, a lot of them that we have to have. But I think we need one for ourselves too, that we agree upon and that we just say, this is what we're here for. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we can do. This is how we're going to do it. Which sounds simplistic, but I think that structure is kind of something that, 2.5 years ago, this diatribe aside, but we probably had like, 2.5 years ago in the summer, we had maybe like at that time 30 something high school students. We like barely had a high school. We didn't own our building. Like all of these changes, we didn't have a busing program. We made barely, that was just getting started. Like if you look at all the things that have changed just in the last couple of years, it is crazy. And I think we would be naive or optimistic if we thought, okay, we've done all the crazy changes and now we're just going to coast. Because I think it will repeat itself in a different fashion. And I think we want to prepare ourselves for that. And I think also at a time in the not distant future, then we could start looking at, you know, can we do, add some people to the board? I think personally, I have so many things I think like I'd like to see us do, but one of them I think is, you know, leveraging, our relationships, making relationships with people like Hillsdale, with people on the PED, with people in the community here. And like, but I think the more we understand our authority, the more we understand what we're trying to do, the more we understand like what we don't have to worry, it's not my purview, the better equipped we will be to be effective. Now, I don't know. I've kind of started playing around with this. I think suggesting this subcommittee. I don't think we need to do it that way. I think the only limitation we have is we cannot all meet together and talk outside of a board meeting. And that is always going to be something that's going to make things uniquely challenging for us.
I have a
But
question, are we able to do like a retreat or anything like that together?
I mean, Dan could speak to it, but I do not think we can gather.
Like go through our policies together and kind of see what
It's
we
going to
need
have, I mean,
change
Dan,
for
my understanding is it has to happen in
Yeah.
this subcommittee.
I'm happy to answer that. So, Brenda, the challenge with having a retreat or sort of a work session is that under the Open Meetings Act, you'd have to notice that as a public meeting, which would then be subject to notice requirements and then the recording requirements.
I mean,
And,
people
and
would love the
publishing
icebreakers that
minutes.
we did at the retreat, and that would
Yeah.
probably go viral. But the other
So
stuff, yeah.
it's really not how most boards want to do that because you want to be able to be candid in those meetings rather than have something that's recorded and has to be on your website for 5 years, right? So the options are you can do a subcommittee, so less than a quorum of the board, and that's not subject to the Open Meetings Act. And so you can do that, and then that subcommittee can report to the board and make recommendations. That's kind of the most common solution. I've had some boards just do a retreat anyway and publish it and post it, but that's probably not the best option. And then I guess kind of um, other than that, you could assign one member of the board to kind of do a rough draft and then bring that to either a committee or to the full board. I think committee is probably the way to go on this. The the other thing I'll say on open meetings act, just while we're talking about it, there's nothing wrong with you guys all being in the same place. And so if you all like travel to a training or you're at a sporting event or something, that's not a meeting. What makes the retreat turn into a meeting is the Open Meetings Act includes public discussion or discussion of public business, right? And so when you're discussing bylaws or you're discussing plans for the school, under the letter of the law, that becomes a meeting that requires the notice.
Mm.
So hopefully that helps. I'm also happy to be involved if you, want help kind of with a review or drafting some of those changes, just let me know and we can schedule something. And as I was telling Gabe, I've been meaning to get out to Gallup, hopefully when the weather's a little bit nicer, but
Yeah, don't come this week. That's
we'll be
yeah.
happy to get out there when you get a committee set up so we can start working on this and getting it optimized. I guess, sorry, last thing I'll say, there is a process where you have to submit bylaw changes to the PEC. It's a notice requirement, but we have to do that. So we can walk you through that when we get closer.
Yeah, and part of my like part of the reason I want to be so kind of intentional about how we approach this is I don't think I don't think there's a rule that you can't tell like go back 8 times with new bylaws revisions. I just think for our optics we wouldn't want to do that. Ideally, what we can do is get our drafted changes, everybody like kind of looks at it, adds, kind of have that. We can have some of that over email and in subcommittee, and then, but really look at all the bylaws. Just go back, go back to the beginning, like, and what now, Dan can, Dan can highlight, but my assumption is that anything that is in the latter half of the document that is policies is stuff that has to be in there or should be in there for kind of liability or whatever reason. So, and that is a lion's share of it. And regrettably, I do not think this will be one of those situations where we're able to cut a lot because the meat of it are these policies, but we can think through those in a little more in depth. But it, I don't, it's not like, I think before I got here and in a move after my own heart that I respect and love is Hozho has continually chosen to prioritize being able to accommodate as many students as we can as soon as we can. This is not a traditional way to grow a charter school this fast. Is that correct, Katie? I mean, it's like going from by next year, I think we will be close to having 10% of the eligible student population in the area will be here.
I mean, you guys do have grown very fast, but a lot of it has to do with demand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's the demand is there because we're so great. But by default, steps that in a normal like growth of a business that you would have time to go back and do, you can't because that is more just like organizing. And I think it is incredible to have gotten to where we are, where we're about to graduate this senior class. You're looking at our testing results for that senior class, how much they've grown in the time that they've been here. And I think it is our responsibility to just wrap the structure and then to create. I don't want to create an abundance of policies and procedures, but really the more things in this school that are governed by a policy than governed by that's how we've always done it, it's better for everybody, even if it means that there has to be some fat binder somewhere with all the policies. And I think we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to be like, let's create a policy for this thing that hasn't really happened because we think it might happen. And I think that's where you get into, and this is the challenge. I think it's a challenge with growing a board is like, to a certain extent, it is very difficult to grow like in direct lockstep, especially when the school is growing this fast. But we want to be there kind of supporting them at kind of at a high level and providing this structure that will make everybody's life and job easier and allow us to grow, faster and, better without being held back by, I mean, I think of this like a business at the end of the day. Even though we don't have P&L, we have to apply those same principles that would govern, healthy growth of a business. And that it's maybe some of it will happen without us, but I think we're capable of it. And I think, I mean, I can't imagine like all the stuff Juliana has on her plate with everything else. Not to mention, I don't think we have nearly she's we've got a very small administrative team as is, and so I would like us to be, but just take it one step at a time. I think we could start with the bylaws and feel like what needs to be in there. What authority do we need to have so that even if we have an authority, if it's not really spelled out, like it's harder to use or it's easier to defer or be like, "Ah, I don't know." But just to be like, this is what we're here to do, and this is why we're doing it, and this is the framework within which it's going to happen, and then kind of go from there. But if we want to do like meaningful work, it really we're never going to be able to limit to this table just because of the Open Meetings Act. And like we want to kind of, this is the place to kind of formalize what we've worked on the side. Now, it doesn't mean that you go off and you do stuff and you just kind of report back and tell people this is what we're going to do. I think you try and kind of create a close to finished document or a close to finished process and then bring it back to the rest of the group for review. Does that make sense to everybody? There's other just little stuff in the bylaws that just need cleaning up. Like there are 6 references to our annual meeting, but there's no definition of what our annual meeting is. And I think I've done this myself with bylaws where as they change, something gets taken out, but then like other stuff gets left in. And so it just needs like a clean scrub. And I think by doing this clean scrub, that sets the table for us to kind of um, build these policies, build these procedures, further define our role. And I think we have that to say this is what this is what we should be involved with, this is what we can be helpful with, but also to say, even if it's obvious, like some of the stuff mentioned earlier, like we have no responsibility or authority or need to get into like how people are teaching about the Civil War and if they are talking about Ulysses S. Grant enough. But the answer is probably no. But yeah, I'm a Grant. Don't get me started on Grant. But so that's the subcommittee I'm proposing. That's kind of the backstory on that. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts? Is any of that?
So if I can just kind of restate just to make sure. So we're forming a subcommittee
Mhm.
where we will first start with our bylaws and just kind of review through them and see which things we need to modify. We'll be taking note on the side, like which things we're going to change or correct or
Mhm.
simplify or whatever. We'll collect all of that before we then present it to the board.
Then let me just
Okay.
clarify too. I think we have the right and authority to do this without a subcommittee. I think long term, this is the way I would like us to get in the habit of doing business. And I think there will be other things in the future. I don't know that but I think like if like the 3 of us met at Aaron's house, thanks for hosting, and worked on this, and I think that is the proper like transparent kind of like way to be doing things. I do think I could just rock up with bylaws at a board meeting and be like, these are the new ones, guys, have a read, let's approve them and approve them. And I think that'd be correct. I think in 10 years, that could be that habit could be very bad for the school. So I think this is probably like just the the best way to do it.
And then once we collect, like, we have 5 different bylaws we're gonna be changing or
Yeah,
updating.
more than
whatever.
that, but yeah.
Then we bring it to the.
I mean, no, I think then people are reading about it first. And
Yeah.
it's like, then once all of us are like, okay, I've read it, it makes sense to me. I don't have anything else I think we should add or take out. Once we get to that place, then we bring it to the board meeting. So the way this should work is there will be, I mean, maybe we'll talk about it briefly, but there will be nothing in those bylaws that when we come here to approve them,
Not already understood.
that
and on the
there's
same
nothing.
page.
Yes, exactly.
And then we go to Dan and Dan goes to the
Yeah.
Department of Education.
Yep,
and, like,
PC has
let them
to,
know.
they just have to, I mean, because we could put some crazy stuff in there, I assume. So they have to review it and approve it. But my understanding is, as long as we are, operating, we're not going to reinvent the wheel here. There's stuff we can't do. I mean, we can't like write a bylaw that is going to contravene something that's already on the books. So,
Okay.
and then just like what I really want though is this is going to have a part of one of the bylaws in the policies is going to be our policy. Is going to be what are we trying to do and why are we here? And that's where we're going to spell out some of that stuff from within that. Then we can, I think one of our most important responsibilities is our fiduciary role as a board. But like, look how many people we employ just to do the accounting. It's not just Katie, it's Katie. This is a massive thing. So how do we slice that up to find a meaningful way to be involved and provide oversight without like, jumping in the accounting software and, compounding interest or anything like that. So no, not a math guy, so I'm out. But the, I don't want to try and like answer all these questions now or ever all in one time. I don't want to try to answer questions ahead of time, but I kind of want to create the environment where that's the things we're thinking about and we find efficient ways to do that. Another piece to it, this would be like, then I want us to have a board calendar. And it's just like these are the things I want to make future us our lives easier by knowing what's coming and we can get there to where maybe the PTO policy, it's just like every November, probably bad time to do it, but every June we look at it again. So we know if it's going to need to be revised or anything. I want us to try, we will fail, but try to get ahead of, to like not be, it just feels like we're reactive, which is the natural state of an organization that has grown this quickly in this short amount of time. And so I think because we don't have these day-to-day responsibilities in our, it's not like this has to be, some massive time intensive thing. It's as much shifting the way we kind of think about it and better defining what this service means as it is any kind of radical departure from kind of the way we understand it as is. It's filling in more than changing or adding. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me pull my thing up. Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the formation of the Board Policy and Governance Subcommittee as defined in the summary with the sunset date? I don't know. I just made that up. Oh, no. ChatGPT made that up maybe. But I just think like,
better with the timeline.
well, no, it's also just like, then we don't have to worry about what happened to that subcommittee. It's just gone. So I think that's also a great way to do it. It's like we find there's some, obviously finance and audit are always going to exist. There's some other things, that we should have subcommittees, but just so we don't have to keep track of so many things, that sunsetting it seemed like made sense. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So I motion to approve formation of board policy and governance subcommittee.
Thank you, Aaron. Do I have a second? All right. Aaron, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rebecca, how do you vote? Ben, how do you vote? Bryn? And Gabe also votes aye. All right. Our principal will speak to us now.
Since she wants to talk or wants me to give her report. Okay, I will tell you about what Kyle said.
Oh, construction report.
Yes, I have that. I have all the reports right here.
Okay.
At my fingertips.
And then before you move on to the next thing, I have a brief thing I want to say about the construction report, about the kind of marketing idea I have.
All right, so for Kyle, so he said 100% of the dome footing concrete has been completed. We're going to have to adjust our bus loop because they need to move the fence back for construction. We've exceeded 50% of the project budget to date, which is 6.3 million has been spent of the 11.9 million of the budget. We're working to complete the work along the north side of the gym where the new bus turnaround loop and the new entrance onto Park will be. Weight room construction will be happening any day. The dome team, I think it's Yeadon, Yeadon, dome team, will be here in March to complete the actual dome membrane installation.
These are the people. It's essentially a prefab structure. I mean, it is not unique. They build these, so that's who.
So that's the name of the company. Okay, so they'll be here, and so I asked him when he thought it'd be done. Matt thinks it's like September, August. Kyle is thinking more June, July. So sometime within.
We trust the contractor or?
Well,
So that's just like, and it depends on what you say, done, like, is it like?
Yeah.
Can you go inside the structure?
certificate of occupancy, I think.
Yeah. So, so. And, yeah, So anyway, so that's where we are with the construction project, and Julianne doesn't have a strong signal, so I can be her whenever you.
Okay. So I just wanted to add one more thing that aligns with this and just ties into some other stuff. When I told you how we went to Hillsdale, to hear the president speak, um, traditionally in our 8 years of a school, we have not done a lot to like put ourselves out there in the public sphere. Uh, Locally, I think there were pragmatic reasons for it, and also we kind of had our heads down grown. You don't really want to talk about what you're going to do. It's much better to talk about what you're going to, or what you have done. Um, I think it's important, and I've talked to Julianne about this, and I think she's in agreement, although I'll tell her I said this to make sure she backs that up, that we start to think more about how do we share our message outside of the school, in this city, in the state, and across the country. I think there's resources and supports that we can get, both financial and otherwise. Um, and so part of the component of that, now, Dr. Osborne had a very good point about, not getting involved too much in the tiny day-to-day stuff. I will say one place that I've gotten a little bit involved in is trying to help do this, just because I have a lot of experience with that professionally. And so, like, I'll give you an example because it was about the construction thing. I think I would like to, and I've talked to the contractors, and I think they have to talk to some of their people, to help, take a video of that dome going up, or just something that we can share with the community at least. This is what we're building, because ultimately it is ours, but we're a public school and it's going to be for the community. And I think it is going to become increasingly more in our interest to find ways like that to tell our story. And I do think some of that can happen person to person, some of that can happen in a multimedia way. But that is one example that's going to be happening in March. So I will get my camera stuff out, or do something. And I think so. But the reason I'm saying this is I would like you all, because we have a unique perspective where we're plugged in this way, but we're not here all the time. But to think about, just to be thinking about that, how are we sharing kind of what we're doing? Some other simple ways are like with our sports teams and publishing stuff like that. But this is exciting, and this is going to be a great facility for the community, for the school. I think everyone's going to benefit, and I think we, anytime you kind of put yourself out there, there's going to be, somebody who's going to come and try and smack you down or tell you you're wrong or tell you you're terrible, and par for the course. But so stuff like that, this exciting stuff, I don't think we really want to kind of keep that to ourselves anymore.
No, I think once the dome goes up, we're gonna have more people than we know what to do with it.
Yes, but there will be a policy and a procedure.
Yeah, because people are gonna be like,
People.
yeah, I wanna go there, I wanna go practice on that site, yes.
What's
McKinley County Schools actually has a department, don't they, that?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think like, yeah, there's some, I don't know, maybe it's advertising, but yeah, absolutely.
McKinley County School.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to do free. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, yeah. No, but it is one of those things too, where I think it is a mistake you can make in a nonprofit making business, to be like, we're doing good. Why do we need to tell anybody? And in any kind of nonprofit, I can promise you, you need to tell people. And now a majority of our funding is always, we are a public school. We receive state fund, but if we can start to get, support, or, and it doesn't mean just financial support, just allies. We need allies before we need them, basically. And so making inroads in Santa Fe, there's a new mayor. I don't know if he's already in, but I'm sure somebody knows him. But making sure we have those relationships, those things matter a lot. But if you're not intentional about doing them, and you trust that your good work will get out there, no, because somebody else is going to be talking about you a lot louder and a lot more frequently. So, yeah.
All right,
Principal.
Julianne, so change hats,
Mm.
not Kyle, I'm Julianne. Okay, enrollment, 849.
Well, okay, I need an explanation. How do we go from 750 to 849? Where did these? Maybe I'm just using an old number. All right. No, now I just need to get with the program and pay attention.
One is pre-K, one is.
We were at
Okay.
850 the last meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
We're good.
And that's pre-K, that's including the 800.
They're here. Okay, that may be where I'm But
Your SEG funding is not based on pre-K, so you maybe hear me here say.
yeah, okay,
Because it's not included.
okay.
We do have a wait list of over 200 kids. Now, we can't fill, the places we have the wait list are the classrooms that are full. And so, we actually were hoping to have a little bit higher enrollment this year, but we can't fill those.
Are we limited? Like, how much can we go out and like, I was just reading deep in the state 22A today, which is like there was some stuff in there about like specifically being like you can't like try and like entice people to come, or you cannot like, I don't know, like, but like how do we like we want to have full classrooms, and maybe okay, let me not pose the question now. Let me just say I will pose that question afterwards, and because I don't get the sense that I know or we will answer. But I think that's something to keep an eye on.
What grades do they have, or do we have room in?
They're mostly high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And mostly the lower grades are full.
Okay.
Which makes sense if you think of the options that come available to everybody in ninth grade.
Yeah.
And I also
Or
think
they're
like
full.
I
Mhm.
think it's our seventh graders who are the ones who started in kindergarten for.
Yes, 7th graders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I mean, what I hope we will see is in 2 years.
The trend to
Yeah.
stay.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's much easier, I think, to stay in a place that's familiar and as opposed to like,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
options sport wise and.
Mm.
And
So-
more kids who have gone through the whole thing, this is our first year seeing what a senior at Hozho looks like. What did their education look like compared to these kids who have their associate's degree? Yeah.
What schools do they get into? Things like
Yeah.
that.
So, okay, demographics, 50% are native, 75% minority. Starting February 1st, we will open enrollment for pre-K and kinder, for the month of February. Letter of intent has been given to all staff. And so far, everyone except 2 people are coming back. One is expecting a baby and one is getting married and moving away. So mostly, strong retention. In 2 weeks, she has the Hillsdale, or I had to Hillsdale to do the principal training and the classical job fair, so she heads to
Yeah.
Hillsdale. She'll be looking for a couple of elementary positions. And Nathan Stanish will be joining her since he just graduated from there last year. 33 out of 34 seniors are on track to graduate. One is not likely to make it this year. We had a successful trip to Albuquerque to highlight our school at Hillsdale College luncheon last week. Gabe was there. I don't know if other folks were there.
these two.
All right.
Although I didn't make name tags for them because I didn't know they were coming, and I feel bad about it.
Have you
Been
been
sad
mentioned?
ever since.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
are
yeah.
we all going? Are you signed up for
What's the
that?
date on it?
I can check my I think it's February. Oh yeah, I've been telling people February 23rd. Yeah, there we go.
I think I will be, unless I have something crazy pop up. I'll be there.
You enrolled for
I
it?
am, yeah.
Okay.
The deadline for that was originally like November
Yeah.
10th or something.
Like Constantinople or whatever.
Yeah.
This is annoyed with me.
Yeah.
Dietary restrict.
None.
So that was Julianne. So now do you want to do finance? Put that
Can't
to
wait.
the
You
side.
get to be yourself, you know?
Now I get to be me. Now I can answer only part of the questions instead of none of the questions. Okay. For revenue, we really did stay flat. Nothing really changed, but the reason that's exciting is because that could have been a negative number. And the reason that could have been a negative number is because if we weren't going to get impact aid, that was going to be a negative number this month. A big, big negative number.
Do they give us time to like sort that out, or is that already just like a no-no for 1 month? Or is it just end of year where you end up? Like, if we do not want to ending up,
Oh, no, we just wouldn't have gotten it. We
Okay.
have to figure that internally. That's not,
but we would have had time. It would have just been,
we would have had 6 months.
yeah,
and then a
okay.
year.
Suboptimal. Yeah, okay.
But it looks like we're getting at least 400,000, which is what's baked into your financials. And probably more, but not sure, so. But we got them, yay, and we applied again for next year, and we have increased the number of kids we're applying for, so all those things are good news. We did update salary and benefits. We did have some folks that overlapped each other, because we had some folks that were transitioning out. And so either other people were rehired to over the same month, so we paid essentially double salary for the three positions, but going forward, it should be flat. Also, we are not hiring anyone really anymore unless it's critical. So we're trying to keep salary and benefits flat for the rest of the year. We did have a few purchases that kind of increased parts of our budget, but I did have a large amount in for fixed assets, which are like buses and stuff. And I think from what I can tell from purchase orders, we're done with all those purchases. And so we're just gonna use our capital funds on some stuff that we already had planned for, but we're not gonna do like a new bus or a new vehicle. So that's for that 110.
You know, if we have, I was thinking about this, do we have like a wish list, like that's documented anywhere, like when funding's available? Like
I think Kyle would have the best wish list. I think it comes from multiple departments. I think some is athletics. I had a long conversation with athletics today and what they want to do. I think transportation is somewhat important, but also we have a lot of buses and we just got a new
do
one.
we still get repaid for that, or we're on our own now?
No, we get paid for that.
But is it the same time frame? Like,
No, it's always always a year behind.
oh, so it is same time frame before. We're like we
Yes.
buy that bus number 23, and then
It depends on the bus. So the bus we just bought is an activities bus, and we got capital funds for it.
Oh.
So that means that we got the funds in the same year in which we bought the bus.
okay, because it's a different system. Okay.
It's a to and from, it's a different system. If it's a to and from, the state has to buy it for us, or we buy it on a lease and the state buys it back the next year. It's full of cumbersome.
With like, a little bit taken off.
Right. So
You don't get it all back.
It's,
That would be ridiculous.
yeah, no, we don't. Whatever we pay out of pocket, we pay out of
Yes.
pocket. That's why it's good for the state to buy the bus, because then almost 100% is covered. But you have to convince the state you're worthy of another bus.
Which is why we did the amazing thing that we did and somehow pulled it off.
Yeah, which is why we started on our own with 6 buses. And then they paid them off. So, but that did cost us money, but it's all right. So overall, our net operating really didn't change that much. Our beginning balance is the same. And so I think I do think, if we want to be conservative, we'll end with around $1 million this year. Next year, we will be baking in coverage ratio and days cash on hand, because we have to for our bond covenant for all this money that we got to build the dome. And so that
This is cash accounting, or like just like literally whatever. Okay.
Yeah, days cash. Well, our financials would be cash. What I submit to them will also include any accruals. But I mean, the forecast is an accrual.
Okay.
Because it's estimating.
Well, I'm just saying sometimes we get paid so late for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want us to get,
Allow us to do that.
Okay.
accrual.
So, okay, that's
From
good.
your financials, we are gonna bake that in, so you're not gonna see this you're not gonna see, a 7% fund balance is good anymore. You're gonna be like, we're just making it. Because of the coverage ratios and the days cash on hand, we're going to have to start meeting next year. Also rent goes up significantly next year, but so does our lease award go up, and also.
You mean rent at middle school? At the middle school, or?
Hmm?
You're just saying rent as the 120?
Just because the way we have it structured.
Because right now we have a bond that is covering rent.
Right.
And we're doing CAB I, which is construction in progress. So we're really not paying rent right now.
Until yeah.
Until the mortgage hits, which is which was 18 months as of June. So we have another we're probably going to December. So this time next year, we're gonna have $140,000 payment due.
It's 140. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And so that's gonna increase rent. So I talked to Kyle about it today. And really the focus is increasing enrollment and not increasing staff. Kind of trying to keep staff as flat as possible. Maybe add a teacher here and there, but we've done a lot of the larger, we have a transportation program and the buses aren't full. We have, some days they are, but some days they aren't. And so a lot of these larger kind of overhead costs, we're gonna try to keep flat, even as enrollment goes up. So that's.
And I just asked a procedural question. We call it rent, but even though the LPA is with the state, like, is that kind of colloquial, or is there actually some technical that it's still like the state views us as rent until we've like paid it off or something that we don't actually.
Yeah, so the lease purchase is, all that says is that, the foundation that owns the land. We're just paying them rent, but that goes towards us purchasing it.
Okay.
And so.
Like they hold the deed basically.
They hold the deeds. So at any point, we default on the payments and they want to, they can come take the land, they can come take the school, they can come take it all back, and we have no say.
Just okay. Yep. Straight up as.
Essentially a real estate contract.
Go ahead.
So like a real estate contract is, a lease to purchase where your lease payments are building equity in the property, right? So it's going to the principal. Um, and if there's a default, the state has an interest in the property in terms of the principal payments. And so, Katie's right. If we default, there's a consequence, but the state or the school is entitled to get the benefit of the principal payments we've made. That's why that amortization schedule has to break out very exactly the principal and interest payments for each payment.
Okay.
And then, and if like, for whatever reason, if a school ever closed and like we own the building, then essentially the state absorbs it.
Right.
Because we're a government.
Which is the position they needed to be in for us to get certain kinds of financing.
But the good news about the LPA is we actually then get to build our $1.7 million kitchen with the funds we have. And we then actually get to go to Santa Fe and ask for capital funds to improve a public building, which makes us way more attractive.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more money out there once you get an LPA.
Do we know what the time frame is on getting like hearing back on that, or it's a Dan question? Or? Actually, I think I talked to but I mean, Dan, if you have anything to add, but I guess last I heard it was kind of it's in their hands. Yeah.
In some ways, no news is good news, but I've had some go through really quickly and some take months. So we're just kind of beholden to them at this point.
And we're not in it's not like a communicative process where like we're going back and forth. They're just kind of reviewing it on their own end.
Sometimes if they have an issue, they'll come back to us. And so that's why I say no news is good news at this point. But
Okay.
And I haven't really like pushed at this point. I think if I don't
Yeah.
hear probably by February, I'll do a sort of soft inquiry as to where it is. Because you don't want to push too hard. Sometimes that gets a not great.
Yeah.
So hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have more of a concrete update, hopefully with an approval.
Okay. Awesome.
And then so one of the notes is that we did receive the CSP grant, which was $1.5 million. We will be working to spend that over the next year and a half, 2 years. The majority of that money is also going to go to your kitchen and to some of your PE.
In the weight room, was the weight?
Yeah, because that's physical education, your music program. So that money is going to go towards, I call them new expenses. They're not expenses we currently have, except curriculum. That it will cover, but it'll help expand a lot of the things that we need.
Is that one of those grants so that like once you're in, like you have a chance, like you're more like, or it's just you?
It's a one and done.
Okay.
We're not done. We're not probably gonna reapply for it. I don't know if we
How
can
did we get that? You just applied for it for us?
We applied, Julianne and I applied for this grant. Yeah, we've been applying for 8 years.
Okay.
And so we got it.
Good job, seriously.
But no, we did finally break through that ceiling and got it. So that's good. And it's a good time because we need more than 1.7 for a kitchen.
Is it also something that I would like to take, I mean, especially an opportunity like this to demonstrate to, potential supporters that look, we were here, we have gone out, we have gotten this much help, and look for, is there a way, something we can ask for, or help from the community, big donors, foundations, anything else would just be like, we this stove, we would really like to have this cook surface. Or the more tangible it is, I think the more likely you are to get people who feel like they could support it. Yeah, well,
Let's put like.
yeah. Yep. The Jared Montano automatic dishwasher.
Yeah, he does love a good dishwasher.
Yeah, there you go. We'll buy the soap. You don't have to go.
Look at that. We're deal making here. We're deal making.
So, I just wanted to show the funds and where we are as of date.
And that cash flow graph looks
The cash flow looks good,
kind of ours.
because at one point we started really low.
Hey, you know what?
But it is growing. A lot of that is growing because of when like CSP will come in, when different grants will come in, and we're starting in like impact aid just came in, and then the second round will come in the spring. So we do see an upward trajectory. And then as far as our other funds, we were spending them down pretty consistently. Pre-K, that money can be hard to spend, but we were doing our best. JR is working very hard.
Can you just give I don't know if everyone's heard of who JR is. Do you guys know JR? Okay.
It's the internal finance person that I work with here. So he helps us with some of our, like getting our grant awards, helping us identify expenses, helping us with purchase orders, helping us clean things up on the financial side. It's super helpful with the
Is he
school.
located here?
Yeah.
Works in the
he
gym.
works- He works, yeah.
Upstairs.
there. So,
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's involved in a lot of stuff that I think will have overlap with what we're doing. And so
Is he in position?
this year he's there. Yeah. But it's really, he's been very, very helpful, and I enjoy working with him. And he does make Laura and I's lives easier, because we have someone at the school that we can talk shop with, who understands all the codes we say. Like today we were sitting there with Kyle, and JR and I are going back and forth coding, and Kyle was like, I'm gonna take a nap. This is more, so it is nice to.
but this is the stuff where if we code one thing in the wrong place and like don't catch it before it goes to the audit, like that's a finding, right?
It's a-
So
By a penny, it's a finding.
yeah,
So
it
having
it,
somebody
it really
else-
matters.
Then our operational budget, I do think we're gonna spend the majority of that this year, which is fine. As a growing school, that's gonna happen. I'm hoping that we start to save more and more of that as reserves happen. And then impact aid, that graph is not right, but we're gonna spend all of impact aid money. So, we're gonna ignore that one, but we will be spending all that money. So overall, we're doing well. Audit's complete. Thank you, Jesus.
Can I say something about the audit? Okay.
Has been a finding. I'm not even joking.
All right, I'm not gonna say it. It was a general comment, not even specific to Hozho.
Oh,
Well, just about varying of providers and
well, we will have a whole session on the audit probably in March. It
Okay.
has to become
I'm gonna
public.
save it. I'm gonna save it for that.
You say it, and then you can say whatever you want.
Okay.
On record, remember we're recorded.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I know.
And so we are anyway, the audit this year was historically late, like very, very late. And so we probably aren't going to see it until March. That was not our fault. It was actually the big districts, because there was information they need to get from the feds, and the auditors couldn't get it because it was shut down. So audits were just turned in on 1/20. They're usually due before Thanksgiving. So March is generous. We may not talk about the audit till April, and then it's literally audit season again. Because that's
In my mind, it's
that's-
always audit season. I don't know if I believe that it's not audit season.
That's what I do. Don't really do financials. We don't do payroll. We just audit. So anyway, but overall, that's good. We did get impact aid. We did apply for next year's impact aid. And I think if we stick to this budget and the forecast, and we continue to work on getting additional grant funds, I think we'll be good.
Yeah.
Different.
Awesome. Just one other comment just on JR, and then thinking about things like where we can get involved. Something that I was pulled into, which I think is a place that I would like the board to be involved, because it does involve money moving around, and I don't remember if Kyle proposed it or JR proposed it, but was moving to a cashless system at the school. Cash is a very onerous thing for us to accept, because if we accept cash, we need to have it deposited with within 24 hours, and there's not like a weekend exception or anything.
Except
But
for this.
you can imagine even a small amount. And so, so JR is kind of, I've provided some kind of guidance from my experience and just looking at, or things in the, like, so if we just look at it from a basketball game, if there's a way where we can cashlessly accept, money for tickets, and then our concession stand, people can buy stuff, and just digging into the process, just an example of where, like, I think the board can add value, or a committee, is that there wasn't really a policy or a process for how the concession stand was stocked, or how we bought things, or how we priced them. And it is small potatoes. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything materially. But I think it is important that if we're spending money to buy things, that we have like just to make for ease of use, like, how do we do this? What's the formula? Or how do we do it? We're not trying to, like, be a business here, but it's like we don't want to sell, like, we don't want to be a loss leading hot dog seller. And that's a small financial thing, but I think, like, I mean, I have personal work experience with that, and JR was looking at Stripe and Square, which is stuff I've used in other stuff, and to be able to just, this is a very simple thing, but, like, I know how to just, like, try and create some inventory in Stripe and just share that experience. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to be I mean, I would if they needed me, but just to, be involved in that part of the process, whereas this has something to do with money coming in and coming out, which I think falls under our purview. And then can we add a little bit of value from our own experience to make it work a little bit better? And then once that's done, front load the work. And I think long term, we will have more employee hours available to focus on other things, because we no longer have this process where, cash comes here. Then poor Era has to, she's usually one of the people who has to deposit it. It's just is inefficient system. And so a small way that I think, board can do stuff to get involved and kind of make everything better as a whole. So.
Thank you for sending out the reminders to us on our board trainings.
Yeah,
That's another way we can get audited.
I did log into Canvas 3 times thinking that I was just waiting for my classes to show up. Then I remembered that's not how it works. So I haven't, because I figured, but even if you log in, your courses won't be there unless you request it. So
This guy, Barnum,
Ted,
is the
he's
guy
our
to talk
new
to.
guy instead of Missy Brown.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because Missy's now the deputy.
all right, there were no comments from the community, continuing a long tradition. And I would love to receive one someday, although unless it was mean. But
We've received some of those
before.
Our-
Our one.
Cassidy, Dr.
Yes,
Osborne,
sir.
thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and staying with us. It was great to hear from you guys, and I'll follow up in the email a little bit. And Dan, thanks for joining as well. I'm going to give you a call a little bit later this week just to catch up on a couple things, but sounds good.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.